Simon, he presented earlier today as well, so he's going to come out with a different presentation, and he's going to wow you. I don't even know what he's going to talk about. It's all a surprise. Nothing is themed at Bettakultcha. It just comes out, it pops out. So please give a huge round of applause for Simon Wilson.
I just need to take my coat off. I forgot to have this on. All right. It's amazing. 20 years ago, I used to watch a show called The Word on Channel 4. That's right, Terry Christian. And 20 years on, here we are, Friday night after 10:30, that exact time slot. And Ivor's probably a modern-day Terry Christian.
Get on with it.
I am, all right. Right, so how many of you recognise what this might be? Okay, right, okay. Well, it's an input on a computer. It's a cursor, and you type stuff into it. And this is generally how computers are programmed. You have to use a kind of cursor, a prompt, and you create programs. And going back many, many, many years, they didn't have anything as maybe as beautiful as you might see on your PC or your Mac. They had to kind of do it manually by hand. And as time went on, eventually keyboards were connected to these computers. So instead of having to flick lots of valves, you just type stuff into this and you saved it onto a disk and it was showed on a monitor, which is a sign of progress. And entering stuff into computers, for me, first started with this, which is a Commodore 64. I was a spoiled middle-class child. My mum and dad were expats. They made illegal alcohol in Saudi Arabia, and the money, like them do, getting a Commodore 64. And one of the weirder things about Saudi Arabia in the 80s is that they had lots of arcade machines. You may have a preconception of Saudi Arabia, even now, but I'll tell you they had the best arcade machines, better than we had in Cleethorpes, which is where I'm originally from. And there was Tron and there was Pac-Man. And the one thing I really loved about these machines was they had these little things at the front, these little knobby things that gave you joy. And my friend, the first time I got introduced to a joystick was when I used a friend's Atari 2600. And if you know what a pixel is, which is like the little unit that we draw on monitors, basically just imagine 10 of those by 10 of those. That's what an Atari 2600 was like. And when I got my Commodore 64, I got this joystick, which is a Competition Pro 5000, and its name is everything you need to know because it is the joystick of champions. Underneath were these four boxes, these four little switches. They were called micro switches, and as you wiggled at the top, this bit here came in here and basically sent a signal through to the computer to say which direction you went. And joysticks evolved. Some of them became like more fitted to your hand. So this is a conic speaking, and the idea was you could hold it like this, and wiggle like this. Which you might think, well, what's that good for? Well, these games, things like Hypersports, these were called joystick wagglers or joystick destroyers if you're my mum, because you had to keep buying me new joysticks. The idea was to make someone run, you had to go like this as quick as you could. And the speaking was awesome at that. Now, as computers moved on, so did the number of buttons that had to go into them. And this kind of like, this really started to frustrate me. We've got an Xbox and I really don't know the difference between left trigger and left button anymore. And then, you know, from arcades with all their buttons, it went into like the Super Nintendos. You know, I love the Super Nintendos, but only if I can only use two of these buttons and that bit on the side. But the other thing was that this marked the move away from joysticks to where you had to use your thumb just to move over that. And as time has evolved, as Amigas, the 16-bit computers, the PCs and that come in, the joysticks have kind of been replaced by this, the kind of omnipotent mouse pointer and the use of a mouse. You know, the cursor has kind of died away as an input method, and joysticks have moved away from being an input method, which for me is a shame, because they're the sort of thing that have something physical about them, something that, you know, you could maybe harness in some way. Something in a way that means you have to hold on it with two hands, not like Wii controllers where they fly off like that into someone's screen, or in our house from my daughter's hand into my son's face. And it still happens. And iPhones as well, you know, they're kind of in this kind of area where you can hold it with one hand and, you know, you rub your finger, you stroke the screen. and it's still missing this kind of malleability to it, which kind of gets me kind of thinking about the future that Minority Report presented, and more this technology is the sort of things out there. We've got Connect and stuff like that, where you wave your hands, and my phone does it when I've got this app called Waze on it. You wave it in, it responds to you, and it feels like we're distancing ourselves too much from this kind of world where maybe there's something within this energy where we could harness it, where we could take human energy and use it in a way to fuel our absolute inherent desire to use more and more energy. We find out ways of saving energy, and then we waste it. And I wonder if these joysticks and they're waggling, if we could harness that some way, because this is the kind of thing my mum used to see when she came into my room. And maybe there's something we can harness in that. Cheers.
Simon Wilson, ladies and gentlemen, a trip down memory lane there. I could hear one or two people making comments about, oh yeah, I remember, oh, yeah,